Hello, dear students. Welcome once again to the introduction of journalism and mass communication as a subject with the code number OJO/OMC 121. My name is Lippman from the Open University of Tanzania, and I'm happy to take you through the theories of mass communication. And today we're going to discuss about the mass society theories, also being referred to as all-powerful media effect, and also shall discuss about the social scientific theories, in other words, the limited effect theories. Remember that this is Knowledge Area 6, and the department is the Department of Journalism and Media Studies right here at the university. Welcome on board, dear students. Now, before we start, it's important we look at the lecture objectives, whereby at the end of this lesson, we expect students to be able to explain and understand the media effect theories of mass communication. As part of introduction, let us begin now with the mass society theories or all-powerful media effect. We're saying this stress the influential but often negative role of the media. They believe that the media have influences that undermine the social order and that the average people are defenseless against the influence. So remember, we're talking about the mass society theories, all-powerful media effect, how powerful the media is to influence the people, to influence the people's understanding or to influence the actions of the people, how powerful the media is. That's why we refer to them as all-powerful media effect. And we're saying the media is rather influential and often plays some kind of a negative role of the media. So we're saying they believe that the media have influences that undermine the social order and that the average people are defenseless against the influence. You find that to the point that human beings, or rather people, the consumers of the media, to some point they become defenseless of what they receive from the media content, what they consume from the media outlets. They keep on receiving and they can't even defend themselves. Rather, the content of the media is rather imposed on them. Now, these theories emerged in the second half of the 19th century when mass circulation of newspapers, magazines, movies, talkies, and radio came to prominence. That was 19th century. And that's where we realize all these media powerful effects. And it was a time of urbanization and industrialization, which in conjunction with the media now altered the society patterns of life. Now, what are the theories that you're talking about? To start with, it's important we look at the hypodermic needle, or rather magic bullet theory. This was a media theory that saw the media as all-powerful and supremely effective and believed that all human beings responded to the same way to the powerful influence from the media. Just as the name suggests itself, hypodermic needle, somebody is just injecting a media content on you, a magic bullet. Somebody's just shooting at you, shooting a media content in you to the point that you're defenseless and you don't have anything to do. You don't have anything to say. You become defenseless. Hypodermic needle, a magic bullet. A bullet is just coming over to you and you just become defenseless, a recipient for that matter. So this was a media theory that saw the media as all-powerful, as I said. And human beings or people had to receive the powerful influence of the media with nothing to do. So people were viewed as powerless to consciously resist the manipulation, no matter their level of educational status was. So regardless of whether you're a PhD holder, professor, or somebody who had a very good status in the society, but all people were viewed as powerless to this magic bulletin theory or needle theory. That the message was just imposed to you and you had no power to resist because the media is overpowering. I mean, the media has overpowered the media consumers. That the content is too high for the media consumers to resist, or rather to criticize, in other words. Now, we have also the Lippman's theory of public opinion formation. Remember that we're talking of the public opinion. Now, the theory stressed the inability of the average people to make sense of the world and make rational decisions about their actions. Remember, we're talking the public opinion. How do we formulate a public opinion? And we're saying the theory is stressing the inability of an average people to make sense. They are all seen as people who could not make any sense, could not determine their own, way of life. They could not make their rational decisions on the actions or on the surroundings in their vicinity. So Lippman did not believe in the libertarian assumptions of rational audience, because in the libertarian we are saying that people should be free to express themselves, people should be free to air their views, opinions, etc. But now Lippman says no, not in this case. And he thus advocated the placement of control of information gathered or gathering and distribution in the hands of benevolent technocracy, a scientist elite that could be trusted to use scientific methods to sort facts from fiction and make good decisions about who should receive such messages. Now remember that imagine that we have a media outlet right here, and we have the media content, we have the journalists, etc., etc. But now, whatever that the consumers are going to receive, and those journalists were not going to be trusted. It means now only those benevolent technocracy, a scientist elite, could be trusted to disseminate that message, and not otherwise. So people were not free to express themselves. They were not even trusted. Those who could be trusted to disseminate the message were the elite class, scientists who could sort a kind of a message, and the message that they sorted believed that this could fit the desires and the needs of the audience. So they were able to understand what is fiction and what is truth, and who should receive. So they are the ones to determine who to receive that kind of a message, because they believed they knew how to treat the message. We have also the social scientific theories. These are the limited effect theories. It's important that I explain a bit about these social scientific theories. What do we mean as a part of the introduction? So we're saying social scientific theories are generalizations derived from systematic observation and objective analysis of mass media variables by employing methods associated with empirical research in the social science. And that's why the name suggests itself as a social scientific theory, something to do with science. We are talking of generalization derived from systematic observation and objective analysis of mass media. So which means now if we had mass media, if we had radios, television broadcasting stations, etc., newspapers, it means now with the social scientific theories, the media content were supposed to be systematically observed. There should be kind of objective analysis of the media content even before it goes to the consumers. That we're not supposed to just, broadcast anyhow, or just print the media outlets and disseminate to the public without a clear scientific observation or a clear analysis of that content. Which means now empirical research was being involved to look at the media content. That whichever that is going to be consumed by the media audience should be clear and keen enough. So the methods such as experimentation, field surveys, content analysis, focus group discussion, etc., these were used. So we're talking of the social scientific approach to the investigating the effects of the media, or the effects of the media led to the emergence of the limited effect theories. Because the media now were subjected to experimentation, field surveys, a lot of content analysis was done, focus group to ensure the quality of the media in a scientific manner. So this led to the emergence of the so-called limited now effect theories. Now, what are the theories that we talk about? First, we have the Post Stimuli-Response theory. And under the Post Stimuli-Response theory, let us talk about the individual differences perspective. Now, with the individual differences perspective, we are saying that it argues that because people vary greatly in their compositions and because they have different perception of things, media influence differs from one person to another. The name says the individual differences perspective. It means if we have three guys here, we have John, we have Libet on the other hand, and then we have Husna, for example. Now, these are different people altogether with the different perspectives on how they view the world. And it argues that people do vary in their compositions. They vary in understanding. They have different perceptions of how they view the world. And then we're saying the media influence differs also from one person to another. We are not the same with the way we look at things. So in other words, people learn attitudes, values, and beliefs in the context of experience. And this results in differences in the way they understand and perceive the media messages. Remember that we've been subjected to different environments altogether. We have been brought up in different settings altogether. We cannot view the media messages all the same. No. We have different ways of viewing the media content. We might receive the same information, but now the way we perceive that kind of information differs from one person to another. We have the different understanding, and different viewing of the media content altogether. We cannot view the media content all the same because we are different and we originate from different capacities and different experiences altogether. Dear students, let's look into the social category perspective. With a social category perspective, it assumes that members of a given social category will respond to the media stimuli in more or less uniform ways. The name says the social category perspective, assuming that members of the given social class, members of the given social category will have to respond to the media content or media stimuli in more or less uniform ways. Why? Because they are inclined in a certain, society, in a certain social class, in a certain social category. So the way they look at the media content, the way they perceive things would rather look similar. Why? Because they've been brought up in that, perspective. They've been brought up with the same experience. In other words, people with similar backgrounds, for example, we're talking of age, gender, income level, for example, religious affiliations, will have similar reactions to the media exposure to the media content. Remember that we play together, we are the age mates, we belong to the same gender, we belong to a certain gender, or we are treated in a certain gender activities. We have the same income level. We belong to the same religious denominations, etc., etc. We've been brought up to certain kind of religious affiliations. So you find that we will look the media content in a similar, and we will react to the media content in a similar way. Now we have the social relations also perspective. What is the social relations perspective? It assumes that the people reaction to the media message is modified by their social relationships with significant others, like relations, we have friends, social groups, etc. I receive the media message here, but I belong to the certain social, relations. I have relations with a certain social, status, for example. I have relations with friends, social groups. We have, different relations, a husband and a wife, etc., etc. So this social relations perspective, people's reaction to the media message is now modified by their social relations. If they belong to the certain group, if they belong to the certain, church, for example, if they belong to a certain friends group. Now that we have with the social media, for example, WhatsApp groups, etc., etc. So these, the reaction to the media message is now in accordance to that relations that you are inclined to. And then we have the two-step flow theory. And remember that these theories actually, as I said before, they help the students now to find their research topics where they fit in. That's why we are trying to propagate and explain all these different type of theories so that we have different type of research topics, and students will be able to determine now where to chip in. And the type of theories that I'm trying to explain here, I just feel we have so many theories. These are just, few and key theories that I'm explaining to you now. There will be some other theories that I've not explained here, but it's upon you as students now to go and further read in libraries to find out other theories that could fit your research topics. Now, with the two-step theory, two-step flow theory, it states that the media message passed through opinion leaders to opinion followers. It was discovered during election campaigns that many people had little exposure to the mass media. And in this, I think I can just give an example in the country like Tanzania, for example, whereby in 1960s, 1961 and above, when the country had attained its independence, we had very few media outlets. And with a few radio stations and with a few radio handsets, that the entire village had only a single radio, and people were gathered just to listen to a single radio under the tree. So under such circumstances now, the two-step flow theory came in, whereby we had the so-called opinion leaders, because it was not easy for all the villagers to gather and listen at this same, or to listen at the single radio handset. It was not possible. But now, how could they get this kind of information from the radio, since it was difficult to gather all the villagers under the same tree? So this is where the essence of using these opinion leaders came in. So in the simplest form, the opinion leaders were there listening to the radio content, and they would go out there to their public and explain what they have heard from the radio. These were the opinion leaders, and mind you, they were trusted by the villagers. And those who were listening to opinion leaders were opinion followers. And why? Because many people had no exposure to the mass media. So such people obtained the information secondhand from the people and opinion leaders who got it from the media and also shaped it as they passed it down. Now, one disadvantage of using these opinion leaders, if they were rather crooked, they could shape the message or the media content the way they wanted. They could even mislead the followers if they wanted. But since they were trusted, we believed that opinion leaders were trusted and they were people of dignity, and whatever that they relayed to the citizens, whatever that they conveyed to the citizens, we believed that it was true and reflected the reality. Dear students, we are saying the people's voting decision was based on their second-hand information, which has been modified by the opinion leaders. Remember, I'm saying opinion leaders were listening to the radio, for example, or to the few mass media outlets that were there, and they could go out there, especially during campaigns, and tell their followers, tell their opinion followers what they've heard. So the people's voting decision now was based on their second-hand information received from their opinion leaders, because they had no access to mass media. They relied on opinion leaders. So the two-step flow was later modified to multi-step flow theory, since opinion leaders also have opinion leaders and so on and continuous, because opinion leaders, they have their own opinion leaders as well. So we developed the so-called multi-step flow theory. And the two-step flow model is being expressed in a way that the mass media is there above, trying to impose the message to these opinion leaders. And the opinion leaders now would go and impose the message to the opinion followers. So there must be a contact between opinion leaders and opinion followers. And the opinion leaders get the message from the mass media. After having looked at that, let us now look into another category, that is dissonance theory. And we are talking of selective processes. With the dissonance theory, further corroborates the fact that the media are not all powerful, as the belief was in the mass society era. Remember, we talked of the all-powerful media effect. But now in this case, with the dissonance theory, we are talking of selective process. We are saying the media is not all that powerful, because the media consumers are rather selective in the media content. So the idea is, in dissonance theory, is that any information that is not consistent with the person's already held values and beliefs will create psychological discomfort, dissonance that must be relieved. So we are saying you get a message that you think does not fit your desires, then you're able, or you're allowed to denounce that message. So people, or the media consumers in this way, they were not, getting the message along and just receive it, just as the media wants them to receive. No. People were rather selective in this case. Dissonance. They had a power to reject the media content that they thought could not, dim their desires. So this is because people generally work to keep the knowledge of themselves and the word consistent with their pre-existing beliefs. If you bring something that is contrary to what they believe, they had the right to reject the media content. They don't just receive the message anyhow, just as with the media bullet theory. Dissonance. They have to select the media content. So the way of doing this have become known as the selective process. Generally, people tend to expose themselves to those mass communication that they are in accord with the existing attitudes and beliefs, as I said, while they consciously and unconsciously avoid communications of opposite hue or type. Why should you receive a message that you think is contrary to your belief? That's why we have selective exposure. Now, with the selective exposure, this is a people's tendency to seek out information that supports their interest. Remember, we're talking selective exposure. You're exposed to a message that you've selected, out of your own conscious. It's something that you like. It's something that is in line with your beliefs. It's something that is in line with your interests. Selective exposure. It's a tendency, people's tendency to seek out information that supports their own interests, and it confirms the beliefs and it boosts their ego while avoiding those that are contrary to their predisposition or inclination. And we are saying, in other words, that receivers choose exposure to ideas that reinforce and confirm already held beliefs and attitudes. Let me give you one example. For example, if you're a Christian, you may have the tendency to read books or watch films that support your religion while you avoid other religions, materials. Let's take an example of Islamic religion. I'm a Christian, for example. I would be ready to hear the message or to listen to the radio content or radio broadcast, that casts out Christianity. And if I hear something to do with Islamic, I'll just switch off the radio. Why am I doing so? Because that is not part of my religion and have to be selective in the media content. And I have to select media content that is in line with my interest, my beliefs. Now, we have also the selective attention, which does not differ much with the selective exposure. As a result of too much barrage of information that bombards us, we tend to attend to the media messages that we feel are in accord with our already held attitudes and beliefs, while we filter those ones that do not cater for us. Remember, we're talking of selective attention. We have so many media content comes to us from the radio, newspapers, magazines, televisions, etc. All these are coming into us. Now we have to be very attentive and we have to be selective as well. So many information coming bombarded to us. So we attend to media message that we think are more important, and we attend to only those media content that we think are already held attitudes and interests that are in according to my beliefs. And then we have the selective perception, where this is a mental recasting of a message so that its meaning is in line with the person's beliefs and attitudes. Selective perception. It is a psychological process, in other words, which involves decoding of communication messages and ensuring that they align with your previous experiences and current disposition or needs, moods, and memories. So if I receive a media content that reminds me of my past experience, I tend to like it most. Selective perception. I put some kind of a mental recasting of that message, especially if it reminds me of my previous experience. And sometimes I may listen to media content that reminds me of the past, but also, reminds me of what has recently happened. And the reflection of that message, though it was of the past, but it reflects the reality on the ground now. That is selective perception. Dear students, after having said that, it's my hope that you have been able to capture and understand some of the mass society theories that we discussed, and those we refer to as all-powerful media effect, and the social scientific theories, that's a limited effect theories. And in the next session, we shall discuss the theories of media, culture, and society, in which the agenda setting is one of them, because there's so many theories that we've left out, and we shall come to see as we proceed with this session. But before we quit, it's important that we engage in a class activity, and I would like you, dear students, to answer the following questions. Number one, why are the social scientific theories referred to as limited effect theories? I repeat, why are the social scientific theories referred to as the limited effect theories? Number two, how powerful is the bullet theory, and why is it referred to as all powerful? After having said that, I'm saying thank you for your attention, and I hope that we'll meet in the next session. On that note, I say goodbye. Thank you very much for your attention.